All right, we are going to call this meeting of the City Council Community Development Committee to order on this November 3rd, 2025. Time is now 6:04. And we are calling this to order. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anybody is here to make a public comment, now is the time. Please come up to the mic, state your name, address, direct your comments to the chair. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to roll call. Alderman Prude. Here. Alderman Barron. Here. Alderman Osenga.
Present.
Alderwoman Swanson.
Here.
Alderman Navarez. Alderman Cobbs.
Here.
Hey. Alderwoman Noble. Okay. We do have a quorum with 5 people present. Also here is Alderman Lance Marzak, Barbie Brewer-Watson, Maya Pettigrew, and what was her last name? Okay, thank you. And Marlena Calvin. All right. With that, let's go to the October 6th, 2025 meeting minutes. Those were provided last week. If you could take a look at those minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Alderman Osenga.
Second.
Second by Alderman Cobbs. All in favor of approval, or is there any comments or changes to the minutes? All in favor of approving the October 6th committee meeting minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. All right, those minutes are approved. If you could go on, the next item on the agenda, September bills and draw vouchers. Those were also provided to you last week. Barbie, Maya, is there anything to note with them?
No,
Nothing really special in them, just we're finishing up projects, and so there's some contractors in there, so that's heavy on the price here that you're seeing. And so we also have some recording fees going out, building and code fees that are in there, and then catching up on operational fees as well, reimbursing the city.
All right, and the amount presented is $181,195.01. Is there a motion to approve those draw vouchers as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Alderman Swanson,
Second.
second by Alderman Osenga. We'll do this on roll call. Alderman Prude?
Aye.
Alderman Barron, aye, but I abstain as to item 261016 to First Trust Bank. Alderman Osenga?
Aye.
Alderman Swanson?
Aye.
Alderman Cobbs?
Aye.
Those draw vouchers are approved. All right, with that, we will move on to, we have no presentations, so we'll go to the ECDA departmental report from Barbie Brewer-Watson and Maya Pettigrew.
Thank you. Maya, feel free to jump in if something else needs to be added. So, we have 40 projects in progress. We had lots of hopes last month to get some things wrapped up in projects, and we had lots of inspections and lead clearances, and things did not go our way. So we are doing a lot more lead clearances this next couple weeks and inspections. So we are really excited because when we come back next month, we will have multiple projects closed out, and we'll just feel good because we've been working really hard. So in the lead program, we have 12 projects in process right now. We weren't able to clear out anything last month. Our lead program, if you don't know, there's the lead test in the front of it that tells us what the scope of work is, what the rehab is, and at the end, you have to have another lead clearance test. So even if there is a millimeter of any lead everything has to go back and get cleaned again and make sure that we didn't miss anything, and that takes time. That's another lead inspection, some more lead testing, so we're in that process right now of that kind of stuff. And it can just be a paint chip that just happens to be, right outside of a door frame that got missed, didn't get vacuumed up. So they have to go back in and clear that out.
Rita, does that happen very often?
It hasn't, it just had happened this month, and so we were really hoping to be done, because you can't have a resident move back into the house until lead is completely cleared, so it's just part of the process that we have to have for documentation for the grant.
I just caught a small tidbit on WCAN, and they were talking about lead and some sort of like X-ray scanner that they use.
Yeah,
Are we using, I mean, not us, but somebody is that how they're finding the lead?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's our lead program. A goal next month, we think we'll have 4 that are completed, so we're excited about that. Healthy homes, we were able to clear 1 this past month, so that's good. We have 14 in progress, and some of those are close to being completed too, so wrapping these up right before the winter time. Our CDBG, housing rehabilitation programs, we have 7 projects in process, and so we are working through those to also close those out. And then our MIRA program, we have 3 in progress right now, and so those are getting underway this month. And so hopefully, I think one of them is a roof, so we should be able to wrap that up in the next couple weeks for at least one of these projects. Demolition. So we were able to get the certified letter out to the resident, the actual property owner, that was returned back to us. In the meantime of doing that, our demolition contractor was finishing up on another job as well. So we are hopeful that this demolition will get started this week, if not for sure next week. The permit is ready. We've communicated with them. There was a request to save the Rosie sign and any other signage that we could, so we have pass that along to the contractor, who will try to do their best to make sure that they save exterior signage for historical purposes in the community. So that's where we're at with demo. Hopefully, completion update next month. Our public service program for CDBG. So the funds for 25-26 we received later on in this year, and so Marlena worked diligently to get those grant agreements out and signed, and they are returning them, and they can begin making these reports, and as long as they've met the benchmarks for the grant, they'll be able to start drawing down funds very quickly. This program is supposed to wrap up in April, May of next year, so they've got some time, but they may have already met some of their grant benchmarks, and they can start drawing down money pretty quickly. And then we start the 26-27 process here right around Thanksgiving. So that announcement and those press releases to all the public service agencies to apply, that will start again. So we're right back in the swing of things.
And that starts when, Barbie?
Right around Thanksgiving,
Right around Thanksgiving?
yeah. And we'll make sure that you guys get the press release and all that announcement so that you can pass that along to your constituents.
Barbie, they have to attend one of 2 meetings? Is that how you typically?
Yeah. Private security incentive program. So we received word from City Comptroller Administration Office that there is more money added to this, and so we are reconciling their account with our account, so we know exactly how much is in there. So right now, we say remaining funds of $1,033, but we know that there has been more allotted to this. So we have already, in the packet that you just have, we have just processed 6 applications. We received another 7 over the weekend when we came into work this morning. So this program is very popular, and the community really responds to it. So we're grateful for the additional funding, and we will keep processing those applications as we get them. I did in our, one of our outreach events where we partnered with KDC and United Way to talk to the businesses about, we're just having tools and resources to deal with homeless population, vagrant, in downtown. We talked a lot about this program, and a lot of the businesses weren't aware that they could participate. So we may see some uptick when it comes to the business community too, realizing that this program is available for them if they choose to get exterior lighting and exterior cameras as well. So it's a popular program, and people really appreciate it.
Barbie, the amount that's available is more than the 1,030?
Yes.
Okay.
So on the city side, after they process the applications that we sent over, we will get the new balance. Should be about $8,000 that's left over there, yeah. Yeah.
Where's that coming from?
It's part of the other allocation that was made that you guys already approved that we didn't get transferred over to us. So we didn't know it was sitting there, so. And we're just reconciling our numbers with their numbers.
Hey, Barbie, how simple is the process, for far as the camera program?
I believe it's really simple, because you're just going to fill out the application, and the application is really telling us that you have purchased the cameras, where your address is, and you're signing it to give us permission to verify that the cameras have been installed. We use that application along with your receipt that you submit with it, and we just verify that there are cameras or lights on the outside of your property. We take a picture when we're out there, and then that is the documentation process to get the check cut and sent out to the resident. So it's a pretty quick and painless program. It's not one of our other programs where you have to have layers and layers of application and documentation for.
Is there a question on that application about sharing the information?
I don't know. Oh, yes, there is, because there's
Yeah.
not a registry. We're not keeping a list of a registry of who's got cameras, and the clerk isn't housing it, and the police department isn't keeping track of who is in this program, who we've cut reimbursements to. So there's not like a registry of this information.
But when you mean sharing, I mean, you're just basically saying if there's an incident, correct? The police are able to retrieve that information?
So the police's policy on this is wherever there's an incident and they notice a camera on a
Right.
property, they will just go knock on the door.
Right.
But they do not go check our list of who's been in this, who's taken advantage of the program. And there's no sharing of that information.
I just think that's important for people to understand, because some
Yeah.
people, when I had mentioned it, they're like, well, I don't want people, like people
Yeah.
watching me, So I said, I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that if there's an incident, you're just agreeing that, you would share it. The police can't just access the cameras.
Yeah. No, that's not how that works at
Right.
all. And when we started the program, all of that information came out of those community conversations, and then even conversations that council had at the time of creating the program. If you remember, when we go back to the beginning, this program started from the community and then had sponsorship from local businesses.
Right.
And then because of the quick flow of that money being spent on this program, that was when the city decided to allocate additional funds to it. So the public drove that conversation about privacy, and it became one of the policies that we follow.
Okay. I just think that's important, because actually a couple times it's been brought up, and I'm like,
And I can see why people think that way, and when we were researching it too, there were some camera programs that were taken to court about privacy. And so it was one of the things that we talked about internally between all the departments, including the police department, that is not something that we want to do or keep track of,
Right.
and have some sort of registry kept and stored anywhere.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, media outreach, we're always doing our community outreach programs, participating in community events. We have an upcoming community conversation in partnership with Uplifted Care this week that is centered around grief and the holidays. And so if this is something that you want to share with your constituents, please do. And it's an opportunity to highlight challenges in the community while also building relationships and gaining some important feedback. So you can keep checking out all of our community outreach, our meetings. Our social media is improving all the time, and people are reading our newsletter. Besides the upcoming conversation, we are also doing and supporting the St. Mary's Food Pantry tomorrow as well. So That is it for the director's report this month.
Where do they do the food pantry for St. Mary's?
It's in the parking lot of St. Rose.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Like, full parking lot.
yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, Barbie. All right. One second. Okay, if we could then, we'll go on to old business. First, just wanted to get an update on, as the federal government shutdown continues, if we're seeing any other impacts to the department or otherwise.
Yeah, we are not experiencing any impact from the shutdown right now. In fact, we have been pleasantly surprised when we've been able to send out an email and ask for something. We have gotten a response. We had a IT issue, and we weren't sure how that was going to go with the quarterly report, and within a couple of hours, the IT team at HUD had responded and fixed the application so that we could go back in there and correct a quarterly report, so that was very helpful, and, I was, just kind of thinking we would have to wait a few weeks before we heard back from anybody, and we didn't, and we've gotten communication pretty consistently, so we are able to continue to move, and the vouchers are getting approved, and so we'll see if there's anything else in the future, but right now, we're not experiencing anything. Do you have anything to add? Okay, the only thing that we haven't had is a response on our lead grant application. The responses and confirmation of if we were receiving additional funding was supposed to be in October, and so we haven't received any word on that.
This is for the subsequent program year?
Yeah, it's for the next round of program funding.
Okay. Okay, any questions? All right, and then, I think you've touched on it, but in terms of public safety incentive program, it sounds like money's
Yeah.
been found.
We're going to keep moving forward, and as long as they continue to say we have funds to spend, we will spend them.
That's it for old business. Moving on to new business. We have a homeless service presentation. Turn it over to Barbie.
Thank you. So part of our continuum of care work with our CDBG program is really trying to identify a collaborative and partnered homeless and shelter strategy. And it's been something we've been working on, especially as we work with the continuum of care process and, put together our action reports, our action plans for CDBG, our consolidated plan for CDG. Continuum of care strategy is built into that and participating with the continuum of care. And so we have been working hard for a couple of years now on what is the collaborative partnered approach and what is a shelter strategy. And part of that was identifying agencies that are on the continuum of care, what are they doing, and what is our pipeline, how are we serving, what are gaps. And so Marlene has really done a lot of heavy lifting in this asset mapping part of this process. And so I wanted her to be able to bring to you what we have learned so far in trying to develop what is the strategy that we need to take, and also what is part of our reporting work that we do for the Community Development Block Grant. So Marlene is here tonight to just go over what this homeless continuum care strategy looks like. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Barbie. Hello, Community Development Committee. Glad to be back here. The last time I was here was in May, and I gave you a very brief overview of homeless services. We were kind of in the preliminary stages of developing this system map and organizing all the agencies and what programs they provide. So this is an updated version. It is not static. This is going to be one of those things that kind of keeps evolving as we make corrections, identify gaps, and fix them, and as you'll see funding changes for our agencies. So these services that we've got written down could change tomorrow, and do. So this is what I have currently, happy to provide it, and I'd love to walk you through it and see what it looks like for folks who locally are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness. So they start here. Either they are homeless or they're at risk of becoming homeless. From this step, we then send them to gain access through a coordinated entry point. And this is that last sheet. We have the map. So locally, that is our homeless helpline, which is operated by Fortitude Community Outreach. That is 833-815-HOPE. And we do ask that everyone who is in crisis or currently homeless calls this number to receive services. That is the most streamlined way that we've operated so far. From here, they are initially screened. They're assessed over the phone to determine what their immediate needs are. So first, are they a veteran? And folks who are veterans are immediately screened out of additional services because they have services that are dedicated straight for them. There's funding specifically to provide assistance for veterans, special programming, special locations. There are hospitals specifically there to meet their needs. And so in collaboration with those veteran agencies, we've all identified it'll keep the funding available for those who need it most if the veterans get veterans assistance and everyone else is funneled onward. Then we have crisis housing. So these are the folks who are in immediate need of shelter. They do not have somewhere to go at night, and that is their primary concern. Homeless prevention are for folks who are at risk. They are at risk of losing that housing, but currently they do have somewhere to sleep tonight. I'm going to dive in a little bit deeper at that crisis housing just so you have an idea of what those can look like. So we've got emergency shelter with domestic violence services. That's our Harbor House. They do a wonderful job. They are a great example of agencies that have changing availability. From one day to another, they might have 5 openings, they might have 1, it might go down to 0. It changes so rapidly, which is why that calling the homeless helpline is a great way to start to make sure that they're guided where they need to go. Hotel and motel vouchers are subject to availability as well. We've got Fortitude Community Outreach, Salvation Army, and the Regional Office of Education. For all of the programs that I'm listing, there are a variety of grant requirements that I've not listed here because I don't have the specifics. And because of those specifics is the reason, once again, for the homeless helpline to kind of streamline that experience for folks. We do have 3 grayed out programs that are not currently available locally. We do not have an emergency shelter that participates in the COC. We don't have a medical respite program locally, and we do not have a reentry program that participates in the COC. A medical respite provides acute and post-acute medical care for folks experiencing homelessness so that when they leave the hospital, for instance, they do not go back out onto the street. Reentry is similar for folks who are leaving incarceration so that they don't exit onto the street. It's kind of a middle ground for folks. So now we're going to take a look at where we go from here. Folks who are currently homeless are added to what's called the by name list. I believe I might have mentioned this in May, but it is a list of currently homeless individuals who are gone through each week by local agencies, and they're identified by their needs and what services might be best suited to meet those needs. Each week, these agencies link up, connect people with agencies, and try to move them forward into housing. Folks who are at risk of becoming homeless and the folks who are homeless are linked to those services based on identified needs, and there are a wide variety of them. So you will see that I've expanded this a little bit more on that top page, and then on the following page. These are a lot of grant programs. Transitional housing, rapid rehousing, shelter diversion, permanent supportive housing are all grant programs with unique structures and unique requirements, operated by a variety of agencies. A lot of them operate multiple at the same time. Section 8 is exclusively received through the Housing Authority, which, as some of you may be familiar, has a very extensive wait list. And then housing search and counseling services is, I'd say, a gap locally, but one we're aware of because ECDA is currently working on establishing a housing counseling program, which will be a great asset in providing a way to bridge that gap. And then financial assistance, assistance for rent and mortgage, security deposits, arrears, for utilities. Those are all things that can prevent people from remaining stably housed or entering new housing if they have those things hanging over them from the past. So from here, they will, well, ideally, folks who are at risk of homelessness, they will then have their housing retained, or they may be relocated if that's the best option for them. Folks who are homeless will utilize those supportive services until a program spot opens, which does take a lot of time. Programs are, filled with folks who are receiving those services, and that can last for 6 months. So the frequency of opened positions is random, but they meet weekly to determine that, so they stay on top of it. Housing is secured, and then they continue to use those supportive services as needed. So we have a big, long list of different services, and this is just a fraction of the agencies that provide those services. We tried to collaborate and list as many as we could come up with, so if you see any or don't see any, please do let me know. I would love to add them. So we are trying to meet a broad range of needs for our homeless and at-risk folk. And we do it as a community. It's a long collaborative process. And then finally, we continue providing follow-up. We'd love to see those clients securely housed, standing on their own 2 feet, and at that point, we are able to terminate services. So we do have some identified gaps that we've found as we are preparing this system map. We don't currently have an emergency shelter. There's not currently housing that can be afforded. We're not having enough housing that accommodates large families. A lot of many children in a family, and it's hard to get enough rooms in apartments, and houses tend to be more expensive. We don't have enough programmatic spots or funding to meet the demand that we're seeing, and there is a very long wait list for Section 8, which is unfortunate because it's such a good program for folks to be able to access. And then finally, I wanted to highlight some of the ongoing efforts that we're working on in the future. We are working on that countywide shelter strategy, including what funding looks like. I look forward to coming back and sharing that with you. Several agencies of the COC are working on a pilot program that they've named Homeward Bound, and it is a way to help the folks who spend a lot of time downtown but may not actually be homeless. So trying to identify what they may need. And then Barbie and Maya did a wonderful presentation for businesses, especially I believe in the downtown area, who were experiencing interactions with homeless folks that they'd like to go better. So I believe that they developed a wonderful toolkit. On Thursday, we have the 3rd annual Kankakee County Homeless Summit. Looking forward to that. And then finally is the Housing Counseling and Financial Literacy Program the ECDA is working on. We are waiting for HUD certification, and I didn't think of this, but that is one thing that the government is impacting us on. And that is all the updates I have for you. If you have any questions, happy to answer them, but thank you so much for letting me come and join you all.
If I can add to, my mic is, I don't know why that's like that. Anyway, Homeward Bound pilot program, our police department is part of that pilot group. So Deputy Chief is a part of the planning and the strategy for that. And so we are glad to have him on that team, helping to provide the perspective of the city voice in that work. So as we get updates from them, we will share that with you guys in the future. If you go back to the slide that has some of our bigger gaps on it, I think it's slide 5. Because our perspective is based on the HUD Continuum of Care program, emergency shelter is agencies that participate in the COC. And that means coming to regular monthly meetings and participating, sharing data that gets reported back to HUD. So agencies that are operating outside of the COC, we don't have access to their information if there's not any consistent showing up at Continuum of Care where there are reports and meetings that get reported back. We can't utilize that information to give back to HUD on how we are fulfilling this need. So when we talk about emergency shelter, I'm just asking you to put that hat on and that perspective, because that is what we have to use. And every year we have an action plan, and every year at the end we have to report on that action plan. We only can report on who is showing up at Continuum of Care meetings and participating and giving us their data and tracking that. Also, if you are part of the COC, it does open yourself up to funding opportunities through HUD. So there's that incentive to participate as well. And then medical respite too, it's those programs that are consistently participating. The entry to participating in the COC is just showing up and participating consistently and just sharing the data. So it's not that hard. We do invite people regularly. We know that there are others in the community doing work in reentry, medical respite, and emergency shelter. Consistently are invited. We will continue to invite and be as inclusive as possible. But these are the measurements that we have because we have the actual reports and we turn them in as part of our reporting back for our community development block grant and for the definition of the continuum of care program. So I just want to explain that to you because we do have the grant benchmarks and parameters that we have to follow.
Thank you for
So
clarifying.
Barbie, I guess maybe my question was with the reentry program. Doesn't Jasper Jones run the one that we have? I'm not for sure how that goes. Is that part of the homeless, incarcerations into homelessness?
I have heard that name also, and I believe he does operate a program, but I can't speak to it. I've not met the
Yeah.
gentleman, or aside from hearing of the program, I don't know anything else about it.
Okay, he does do that, Jasper
Yeah.
Jones.
We'd love to have him.
Yeah, that's just part of the participation, so,
Okay.
yeah.
There are entities doing the medical respite piece of this too, at least that you've heard of?
I do not have any real hard information about that. We get a lot of emails that's like, hey, we think that this organization is doing that. When we reach out, if we don't get a response or we don't have a meeting that has a report, we don't count that as factual information for us to work on, so.
What is the report? I mean, is it physically being present and reading information, or is it?
Yeah, and contributing it so that we can record it in those minutes and then use it for our documentation purposes for our grant reporting. It's really not that hard.
Any questions on that slide? Or any?
Going back to Jasper Jones, like if you were trying to if I got a hold of him, and should I just tell him to call your office and you would lead him in the right direction?
Yeah, because the COC meets consistently every month on the same time of the month, so we just get him that information and then plug him right in.
That would be wonderful, thank you.
Do you have his information? If you don't, I do.
Yeah, he comes into the credit union all the
Okay.
time. So if I saw him, I would bring it up.
Okay.
So,
You can if you see him, so he should be, getting his information out there.
Yeah.
would it be fair to say that by not participating, could potentially be missing out on funding, additional funding?
Yeah, there are funding opportunities that would, just by participating, that you could be open to. It's also then a complicated conversation to have because you may not have the capacity. There's all the requirements and applying for that funding, but it does open you up to the opportunity, yes.
Thank you.
But even outside of, it's off.
It's off.
It's not. Even outside of the actual funding that comes directly from the COC, there are also a lot of grants that would come from state or federal levels that require you to be a part of a COC. So it might not be directly connected, but that's where that reporting comes in. Because if our COC can't verify that that person has attended meetings, that they're on the minutes, then we wouldn't be able to certify as a COC that they are a participating entity. So they might lose funding that isn't actually connected to the COC, but that active participation is a requirement.
Yes, thank you for that clarity. I would say, as the COC is the federal entity that provides the collaboration, if they are not collaborating, they are not considered a part of that COC, so they have to come to the table, so.
The other part of this, that when we're talking about it not having emergency shelter as a part of the continuum of care, is that if there are emergency shelters or there are reentry programs that are operating, when someone calls the homeless helpline, if they're not participating in the COC, there's no way to direct them to those resources. So there's not a point of contact to know if there's an opening in the program or what that process to get connected to the program is. So as much as it is about the reporting, it's also about access to that by name list so that they know they can direct them to that program.
Being a part of that, even that meeting of going through the list of people every week. Like, how are they getting services? Are we following up? Are we tracking on them? So participating in the COC is the direction that we would like everybody to go and what we are encouraging in the community to participate in the COC program. Please know, I am not naive. This is a system that is not perfect, and we want to identify the gaps. We want to make this better, and the more people are around the table, because I believe in collaboration and partnership, that's what's going to make this stronger and what is going to work together. And so it is with that intent and that spirit of asking people to participate with us in the COC process. I don't think that I have strongly encouraged our agencies in this way or in this message to work with us. And we've done a lot of work in this understanding of what services we have and the good work that these agencies are doing. And so if we can support them through the COC, I would really like us to be doing that, and then encouraging everybody else to join in with us so that we can have a good continuum of care that gets us to that true functional zero where we know where everybody is working in the community. Small agencies, big agencies, local funding from all the way to federal funding. If we're all working together, it's just going to be a better community for all of us.
Barbie, some of the, emergency shelter that I'm aware of that is not apparently participating in the continuum of care, what I've heard from them, and I don't think this is any secret, but that they need more volunteers. That the lack of volunteers is the primary inhibiting factor for them. Would be participating in the COC be a means to get more volunteers? I mean, is that something that the other social service agencies that are at the table could assist in trying to fill that need?
That's a tough answer to give. I don't think in the short term it's going to solve their volunteer problem or challenges. I think in the long term, as you are making connections and building relationships with other agencies and learning how they're overcoming their own volunteer shortages, you may be able to learn some tactics or some strategies that could help you with your own volunteer strategies. So I think that there's a benefit. I just don't think it will solve things in the short term. But also being a part of a larger network of individuals, these individuals get to know your story, and then they get to be able to spread that around in the community as well and encourage people to volunteer. Because once we give people the knowledge of all the agencies doing all of the work, then people know where to go. They know that they can go volunteer here, they can go volunteer there, and I think that that's also power in this network as well, that we maybe often overlook, because we are, looking at the monetary gains of participating in the COC, but I think that there's these other benefits out there of working together that they're hard to talk about, because we can't, put that into data or, really truly quantify the impact of that. But I do think, especially for agencies that maybe have some of the staffing capacity challenges, this is a place where you can go and maybe be able to learn best practices that can help your organization. Also, there's comfort in just being in a room with people who are doing the same hard work that you're doing and knowing that you're not alone. And I think that there's a benefit in the agencies being able to do that too. And I think that that's important to acknowledge. So just to reiterate, this is a good list of the agencies and some of the programs that we have available right now. When we were talking to the businesses last week, we told them, check back and check often, because funding changes all the time. If they get funding from a local foundation or a philanthropy gift that comes in, it may be a little bit before that press release gets out. So if somebody is in need, call the homeless helpline. If they said, I've already called, then tell them to call again, because programs change and money becomes available, and sometimes it's the persistence and the tenacity of individuals calling that really pays off. So it's my message to anybody that I talk to is call again and keep calling, because things can change very quickly in this world of public services.
I'd just like to say I had interaction, actually it was about a year and a half ago, with a homeless individual, and he was staying at a facility, and I asked him, you know, did you know that there was a place down the street that could help you? And he said, nobody tells us these things. So I think this is a move in the right direction where you have multiple agencies actually communicating together so they can get that problem solved versus, you know, being just standing alone, you know. Getting the word out, outreach is, I think, real critical with this.
Before we leave, I just want to say thank you to Marlena and Maya for doing this work, attending the COC meetings, representing ECDA in the city at the table. You know, those strategies, those conversations take time, and I think it's paid off a lot of the knowledge that they've been able to come back and bring us and administration on all these agencies and what they're doing, and we're going to continue to have those conversations about developing that shelter plan and what it would look like countywide, because these agencies serve people across the county. So that work is still ongoing, and we're hopeful to be able to bring back some basic framework of strategy in a few months, for sure. But we're working on that, and this is part of that story.
Could you go back to the slide that's the 5 gaps? Just wanted to look at that again. Can we get that sent to us? I mean, that's helpful. I don't think it's something we see. I mean, we see one of them more than the others, but I think it's helpful to understand that affordable housing is a big driver in this
Yes.
issue overall.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. We do not have a need for an executive session, so are there any alderperson comments at this time? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Alderman Cobb, second by Alderman Osenga. Does that work?
Yep.
With an, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. We stand adjourned at 6:45 PM.
Lance.
I believe my.
Do I touch the?
I'm sorry, what?
Do I flip the switch?
No.